And then do we need to wait for Steve to join, Dylan, or can you get going?
Let's get going. I think he'll be
There he is. Forget it. Okay. Yeah, if you could share the slides and then I'll kind of get our little start going to the day or the afternoon. All right.
okay. Working on that.
Yep. Thanks, Dylan. Okay. I don't know, Namita, anything to share at the beginning here before we kind of jump in?
Couple of notes. Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to let you know we are recording this meeting. The recording has started, so by being here, you consent to being recorded. We're just going to keep it for our training purposes. We'll share it with the group when this is done. We did have an in-person session late last week. We're thinking today's will be more streamlined because we've gone through this training once, so maybe this recording will be used more than the other one. And then this will come up in a couple of slides, but we are offering professional development hours for this training. So if you're a PE, you need to get hours. We're offering 4 hours for attending the full training. And so if you're just here from start to end and you need those PDHs, just leave me a note. You can do that after the session as well. And then we'll make sure those get to you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Namita. Maybe I'll just go through the rough agenda here quick, and then we could do some quick intros. But yeah, thanks everybody for attending today. This is the agenda from last week. We have a feeling that it might get compressed a bit. We spent a lot of time in person, like walking around the room, and there's a lot of side discussions. So we have a feeling that this might go a bit quicker than what we got planned here. But we'll give a little after some introductions. We'll give a little overview of the project for those that aren't all too familiar. Get a little bit into the GUI, what it does. Yes, we can get the recording after today and the virtual, the in-person recording also, right, Namita? We both will be available to the group.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And to try to kind of, so also today kind of give you a little overview of the interface, get some feedback if you have it. There'll be a little bit, DHI was the developers of the software, and we have Steve Blake and Dylan Keim on the phone today. They'll do most of the walkthrough of the different GUI sections, and there'll be a little sort of live demo. There'll be some stops where we can do little hands-on exercises, throughout the day. And then at the end, if there's any kind of feedback, we can kind of wrap it up and get that from you all. I think we'll kind of play it by ear how quickly it goes. And at some point, maybe in the morning here, we could take a 10 or 15-minute break just to kind of get up and stretch your leg, and a glass of water or coffee or something like that. So that's sort of the overview of today. And maybe before we'll get going, I'll go down the list here. If you can kind of just like introduce yourself and your organization, we'll kind of get everybody introduced. So I'm Andy Thuman. I'm with HDR, and I'm the project manager for Long Island Sound. Andrea, you want to go next? I'm just going to go down the list here.
Hi, I'm Andrea Conine. I work at New York State DEC in our TMDL program.
Great. Craig?
Hi, everyone. My name is Craig Conley. I'm a research ecologist with EPA in their Office of Applied Science and Environmental Solutions.
Dylan?
Hey, I'm Dylan Keim with DHI, and I'll be one of the instructors today.
Michelle?
Good morning, Michelle Golden, DEC Division of Water.
Great, thanks. Sarah?
Good morning, folks. Sarah Healy, also with DEC Division of Water.
Great. Namita?
Hi, everyone. Namita Joshua. I work with HDR, Water Quality Modeler.
Yep. Kathleen?
Good morning. I work with Connecticut Deep and I'm one of the Long Island Sound project coordinators.
Great, thanks. Erica?
I'm Erica Liu. I'm with HDR and I'm a water business group engineer.
Marianne?
Good morning, Mariam, environmental engineer, and I'm from DEP and work for water quality modeling and analysis team.
Great, thanks. Steve?
Hi, Steve Blake with DHI. Along with Dylan, I'll be providing the training today. Welcome, everybody.
Kelly?
Seems like our audio might not be connected.
Oh, is that what she's saying? You can
Oh, I
come
don't
back.
know. I'm just looking at the mute sign and I see that it's
Ooh.
missing for hers. Maybe we can go down and come back, maybe.
Yep, we'll do that. Let's see, we got Nicole?
Nicole, you're on mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now we can.
Okay, hi. I was just saying Nikki Tachiki with the EPA Long Island Sound office.
Great, thank you. Anthony?
Anthony Tsang, EPA Region 2, New York Watershed Management Section.
Great. Alyssa?
Good morning, everyone. Alyssa Viana with NJDEP and the TMDL group.
Gotcha. And then Ben?
Being Wayne here. I'm water quality modeler from HDR.
Great. And then I don't know, Kelly, are you?
Yeah, so my
there we
system
go.
must have just cut out as soon as you called me.
Of course.
Kelly Strike with Connecticut Deep. I'm the Long Island Sound Science and Technical Coordinator.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Did I miss anyone as we went down the list? Okay. I don't know, Steve, I don't know if there was anything you wanted to kind of kick off with before I give a little quick overview of the project or.
No, I think that's a great place to start. Thanks.
Okay. Hey, Namita, is the next, or Dylan, is the next slide some of the info for the PDHs? Like if you just go to the next slide.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so yeah, again, this is just some information regarding PDHs. There's the next slide is like learning objectives. Yeah, if you jump, yep. So learning objectives, and as Namita said, if anyone wants or needs PDHs for their PE, just contact us and we can kind of get them out to you. I think, what was it, 4 PDHs, Namita?
4 hours. Yep.
4 hours. Okay, thank you. Yeah, what's that next slide? Is that just like an intro slide, Dylan? Yeah, and then maybe I got the next 2 or 3 there, just a little overview. I assume most folks are familiar with the project, but just in case, just a little fast, overview. The project was funded or is funded by New York City DEP and EPA. We started back in August 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, and we're ending this August. So we got a, so about a 6-year period, updating the Long Island Sound models, and we'll talk a little bit more about them later. Developed 2 embayment models, one in Long Island, one in Connecticut. Development of a graphical user interface, and that's what we're talking about today. And then some demonstration of living resources models. So that's like big picture what the project was or is. Yeah, the next slide there, Dylan, is kind of what we're here today. And that middle graphic, the GUI DST is decision support tool. But that's what we'll be talking about today. But that's what's sort of integrating everything that's going on from the back end, which is on the left side there, the cloud platform operating system, the modeling inputs, outputs, and then the users of this. So just sort of the way we've envisioned this all along was how this is going to work. What's the next slide, Dylan? A little bit more of the modeling. You know, we have a calibration, validation, what we've been calling sort of a post-audit period after the TMDL loads were achieved. You know, so overall, it's like a 20-year modeling period. Part of our project too is, and that's maybe this what I want to talk about, was we were running 3 management scenarios. So sort of a pre-development, you know, pre-colonial type case with reduced loadings from rivers, removal of all, you know, human-induced inputs. And then another one we're calling a post-development condition, which is sort of like, hey, today's loads, and then what might be coming down the line in the future. For instance, some of the sub-watershed load reductions on Long Island, some wastewater plant upgrades up in the Connecticut, Massachusetts area, and then a nutrient bioextraction management run that would use sort of the post-development as the base case, but then add on top of that some bioextraction with sugar kelp in the New York State embayments around Long Island Sound. So just sort of those will be part of this package also. And just a note, all our final documents to date are posted on the Long Island Sound Partnership website at that link on that's showing right there. And after this meeting, we'll get these slides and like the recordings out to everybody also. What's next, Dylan? I think that might be the next one, might be for a little bit later, right? Slide 11. Yeah. So I know Steve, Dylan, I think now we'll just pass it off to you to start getting into the GUI and the background and walking through it. So.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Andy. I'm going to stop sharing this PowerPoint for now. And just want to confirm, did everyone get a copy of the training manual that I sent out shortly before we started the training? If you didn't, I guess leave a message in the chat and I can send one out to you. And in addition, if anyone has any trouble logging in or does not have an account, then also leave a message in the chat and I'll try and batch handle any of those while someone else is talking so we can keep the flow of the training going. So I'll quickly share.
I think we want to share the next couple of slides on the intro. Is that right?
Let's see. Yeah, like the intro to the GUI.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Sit there. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as we get into the agenda for today and the training itself, we just wanted to introduce the graphical user interface and decision support tool. So that's what we call the GUI DST. Sometimes it gets abbreviated to just be the GUI. So what this is a web application that was developed under this contract by DHI and HDR. The models and scenarios in the GUI DST are the ROM's RCA model developed for the project. And this application is hosted in Microsoft Azure, which means that there isn't an installation requirement or software requirement beyond that of a standard compatible browser. So the purpose of this is intended to support the Long Island Sound stakeholder community with a tool to develop and evaluate management scenarios, to assist in processing the data and the results from the models and analyzing, visualizing those results, and overall to increase the usability and transparency of the modeling framework for the Long Island Sound community. So this GUI DST has been developed with input from the stakeholders during the course of the project. And the intending is to provide an opportunity for feedback. So that's what we're doing today is also taking notes and And once you start using the tool, you learn a lot about, what works, what doesn't. So we're taking that feedback and incorporating that into our development for the delivery. From a user's perspective, the system includes the following features. Basically, the login, something you'll start there today, maybe for the first time, and then you'll have access to the features that we'll be using in the training. So the system provides data access overall to GIS and monitoring data that are used in the modeling and the scenario analysis, and then management tools for building and managing the simulations and developing the water quality loading. So the full application includes model execution and simulation capabilities, and results processing and display capabilities. And the requirements listed there are just the web browser and the account that Dylan was discussing a minute ago. So I think we mentioned earlier that the presentation and the training manual, are kind of the outcomes. And of course, we're here today to help with any way we can. We are, of course, still in development. We've taken the model execution and scenario development and shortcut that procedure so that we can use this in a bit more of a streamlined way, and also to save the execution time and costs that are associated with actually running models. So we've got, scenarios that stand in for running those results, but just so you know, these are for demonstration purposes and are not final model results or actual scenarios. So we're kind of looking at them a little bit abstractly. And so with that, I think we'll move on to the training section. Yeah, Dylan, maybe we could switch back if that's.
Sure. To the training manual.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good place to start. So we're going to start with some basic navigation. I think what we'll do is, you might want to have this manual available to you to refer to. Since we're just really sharing one screen here, I think we'll move back to the live application and work through that. So the first thing we'll do is just log in and then just go through the basic navigation and overview. If you're comfortable following along, feel free, but otherwise you can just sort of follow along on the screen, and then we'll provide some time for you to repeat the exercise.
Okay. Should I step through this chapter 1, Steve? Or?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Okay. So when you visit the URL that I shared with you via email, you'll land on the login page, and you enter your username and password and click login. And you should be greeted with the main data and map screen. The application bar at the top has the system title, and depending on if you're an administrator or not, you might have data and maps and admin, or just most of you, I think, will just have the data and maps tab. And then the screen is the overall layout of the screen is divided into a data and charts panel on the left-hand side with tabs along the top for the 5 main sections. We're on the GIS data tab at the moment. And then a map panel on the right-hand side that should take up most of your screen, depending on your screen resolution. If you find the data and charts panel on the left is taking up too much of your screen, you could zoom out the browser window by holding Control and scrolling on your mouse. So if I do that here, everything gets quite small for me. So I'm going to keep it at 100% zoom. There's a few map controls, zoom in, zoom out, reset north, and then a map legend at the top right of the screen. The style buttons at the bottom of the map legend will let you change the background map to something that's suitable for the data you're visualizing. I did see a hand up. Please go ahead.
So me and let's see. Oh, it says we should have got an email directly, but yeah, we're not in the system.
Okay. Let me get through this chapter, and then I will. Could you please write in the chat who does not have access? Okay, thank you. So I'll get through this, and then as soon as this section's done, I'll hand over to Steve, and then I'll send your accounts out again. Okay. So to introduce the content of these tabs, GIS data has a project data catalog with various mapping layers and reporting location setup tool. The stations tab shows observed monitoring data from a number of regional data providers. The scenarios tab allows creating and executing model scenarios. The results tab provides map and chart display of executed scenario results. And the reporting tab has detailed reporting tools, including hypoxia, water quality standards, and the comparison tool. So that brings me to the end of this short chapter, which is just getting introduced to the user interface. The exercise requests you to log in, click through the tabs, pan and drag the map. It's a typical web map that you've likely come across, and then switch the base map style. So I think let's take 5 minutes to do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to try and get these accounts sorted out. And any questions before I leave you to it for a few minutes?
Yeah, go ahead, Dylan. I'll answer the questions, and yeah, feel free. We can kind of just use this as a soft start. Get everybody up to speed, make sure everybody's caught up. So yeah, thanks a lot.
I was just going to say also, since we're online, if you have a question, either like in the chat or just unmute and ask a question, we could stop whenever to kind of address them along the way. No, no, Dylan, Steven, you guys can chime in. I just saw the question from Kathleen about capacity of the GUI for users. At least last week we had what, about 20 people in the room, and maybe even today we're close to that. And we didn't really have any issues with the GUI stability.
Sorry.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to add is that no one's run the model yet. So I think that's something that will be discussed with the project team, not just us, DEP, EPA, about running scenarios, how many at a time, because there's going to be, hosting of this, there's costs for compute time and storage time and all that. So I don't know, Steve, if you wanted to add to that.
Sure, yeah. So I guess the first part is like, it's meant to be a multi-user system, so it's scalable and highly performant for multi-users. So yeah, we're in development, so there's always, things that, we find that we need to sort of resolve. But yeah, I think what we're doing today, the kind of things we're doing today, which is, accessing the system and viewing results and creating reports, that should all handle many users concurrently at no problem. When we do model runs, I mean, that's a different process. So that'll actually start up virtual machines that actually, run the model. So that's actually meant to work. We kind of manage that a little differently because those simulations are effectively, more of the cost. So we'll manage those costs, per user, per parent agency. But yeah, we do have the capacity to run large number of users and potentially simulations at once.
Thanks, that's helpful.
And then Kelly, were you able to access the GUI yet?
Yeah, I'm in.
You're in. Oh, great. There we go.
I am. Yeah. I'm not sure what to do, but I'm just poking around.
Yeah, that's the first part, poking around a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
Say by the end of this training, you'll know what to do.
Has everybody else been able to log in just before we move on? Ben. Okay.
I'm about to send Ben's details. I'm just setting it up.
Great. Okay. Sounds good. And Steve, I forget, are there any browser requirements or I think you mentioned something the other day. Was it just basic?
Yeah, I mean, any edge-based browser, so Chrome or Edge, is what we test with.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it might be okay on others, but we haven't tested it. But let us know if you're using something else and run into any issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've sent Ben's email, so I think that's everyone.
You want to just reshare the application, then we can have you control that, and then we can step through.
Sure.
Thanks. So, that exercise that we started with on your manual, if you're following along there on page 5, that's basically just logging in. So hopefully everybody's got that. Then we, just want you to explore those tabs up top. That's the basic navigation. And then, get familiarized with the map. So make sure with whatever mouse or controls you're using, you can move the map around by dragging it, zoom if you have a scroll wheel. If you're using a trackpad, you actually can pinch and zoom. So there's a few different things that you can do there depending on your interface. And then the map legend on the right is the caret is how you expand and contract things. So you don't see anything showing there. That's what we're going to do next, but that's how you open it. And then you can change the style with that those colored icons at the bottom of that legend. And there's a series of background maps basically, including the far right is none. So you're welcome to change that. The kind of standard is the one on the left that we use, which has a lot of detail on local features. So I think that's kind of everything. Anybody have any questions or any problems with those basic navigation tests? I think what we can do then is move on to the next section. So that's on page 6. So that's chapter 2, GIS data. So the first thing you'll do there is just move to that tab if you're not already on it, the far left tab at the top. And so there's a few sections here. So we have the summary. That's kind of a panel that shows up when you first navigate to this, and that just has a little description on what you're looking at here, and the different categories of data. This is really meant to provide context for the kinds of activities that we'll perform in the application. So you can kind of go down and see what we've provided here, and then there's a little section at the bottom on how to use. And so we'll scroll down and show you some of that. There's a little bit of some icons that we'll describe as we go through this. So if you want to collapse that top layer and get it out of the way, that's what that caret's for. So that's what Dylan did there. And then if you see the next section, so there's a model and scenario reporting setup. So this is a little tool that helps you create features and manage features that you might want to use in the reporting. So we'll go into this a little bit further. I'll come back to that. In the first effort here, we'll skip to the layers below. So this is all the information available. You can see there's administrative boundaries, regulatory assessment units, hydrography, and other data, as well as model information. So there's a series of icons next to these, depending on the type of layer, different things show. So if you just turn on one of the first ones there's an eyeball icon with a null sign through it. So if you click on that, that'll pop up, and that's the New York counties separated by kind of region there. And you'll see they kind of obscure the map. They're drawn on top of the background map. So there's a slider there, control, and that controls the opacity of the layer. So you can make that transparent if you want, or any kind of shade in the middle there. And then there's a T icon with a slash through it. If you click on that, that'll show the label, the county name. And then you can also zoom to the layer with the target icon, and that'll zoom to the overall extent. So this is, of course, the whole state. Within that layer, there's a little description. Right now, it's not very helpful. The little info icon, I think it just says counties or something, but that is something we'll put some more information, kind of telling you what it's for. Sometimes it's a little more cryptic than just an administrative boundary. So you might, if you're working along, you might try that. Otherwise, we'll provide some time a little bit later. So what you can see now is when you have a layer on, it shows up in the map legend with a little symbol. So that's a tool for changing the order. course, we need more than one layer. So, if you want to put on maybe one of the regulatory assessment units, DEC. Now you see there's 2 items there, and if you could zoom in, thank you, to the sound, you see you start to get the some overlay items. In this case, the regulatory assessment units are on top of the county, so that's kind of appropriate. But sometimes you might want to change that. So whether that's if you grab that layer and drag it, you can then change the order, right? So it lets you put things on top of other things. So it's just kind of a convenient way to change that order. You do it here in the map legend. And there's a few other types of layers. So in this section, we've basically turned on 2 polygons. If you go down to one of the other units, like the hydrography layers, we can turn on the USGS flow station. So these are points. These are at locations where the USGS has monitoring data on rivers and streams. And then there's a couple layers that are a bit more dynamic. So there's rivers and water bodies, and then watersheds. So these are USGS provided national map data for the region. So the rivers and water bodies has a great deal of information for local areas, and it has a labeling system built into that. So when you turn that on, you see that blue layer kind of overrides things. You might want to just find out what local features are, where they are relative to other features. So it's useful for that, or it could be a background layer. If you want it to be a background layer, you could just drag that to the bottom of the information you've already posted. And then if you zoom in, you can see it's works with the scale. So as you zoom in, more features show and labels, and those kind of managed relative to the scale of the view that you're working at. So that's helpful as a background layer for local detail. And then similarly, if you want to turn that one off and turn on the watersheds layer. So this layer has the hydrologic unit code watersheds, and those have long label names. And as you zoom in, it displays further detail. As you zoom out, it shows them more aggregated. And again, this is works as a background layer if you want to investigate it, where you are within a certain boundary. And then I think what we do next is look at some of the model. The other data section has a facilities locations. So if you could, you could do either one. So this has a point feature that has all of the facility locations. And many of you are familiar with these facility codes. These are point locations that are relevant to the water quality modeling of the sound. Treatment plants and wastewater, stormwater, industrial facilities. They each have kind of their own indicator symbol, and then they also have a label feature. So you can turn that on and find the name of the specific feature. You can see that some of them just have a number in the symbol. So that's a clustering functionality. So what that does is if there's 2 that are co-located or closely located, it groups them and provides the number of features that are at that location. So typically when you zoom in, you'll then see those features split out. It's relative to the map scale. Every once in a while, there are 2 features at one location for different reasons. So right now we don't split those out, but generally you'll see that throughout the application as we go through, when you're zoomed out and they would overlap, it just consolidates them to a single point and provides the number of features at that point. And then I think the last section is the model information section. So that has a number of layers. I might want to turn some of those off just to make it clear. So the first one is the model skill assessment regions. So that has geographies within the model domain segmented as polygons. And then the next one is the actual model grid. And if you put both of those on, you could overlay them. And put the grid on top, and then you'd be able to see the grid on top of the model skill assessment regions. I guess you'd need to make that transparent technically, but if you wanted to see them both. So this is maybe helpful just for knowing, the overall extent of the grid. Obviously it has Long Island Sound and a lot of offshore areas, as well as a certain amount of detail in the contributing tributaries. And then I think the last one there is the model summary areas. And that, you can just turn the other ones off probably so we can see it.
I think that at the moment it's the same as the model grids.
Got it. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, yeah. So anyway, these are, I think, just meant to include some information about the model information and the assessment regions that are used for the model analysis. And then I guess, if we want to pick one of the other layers, we can show how we select features and look at information specific to a layer. So now, if you click on a feature, if you have one displayed, it will highlight that and center the zoom and the view to that feature. And then it changes the view in the panel. You can see it now says regulatory assessment units, has the source of that and the name of that particular feature. And then it has an overview, a data summary, and attributes. So these are meant to provide some further information on this layer. Right now, we just have the attributes field. If you click on that, that'll just show you all of the GIS attributes that are included for that selected feature. So these are sort of straight from the GIS. So sort of cryptic if you're not familiar with that data set. But like they might be useful to know, what's at this location. These are just directly imported from source GIS layers. So we'll be adding more explanations and detail to these other tabs as we go through the rest of the development. But if you want, you can see what's there in the full detail if necessary, if you're looking for some information. And then you can use that X to exit out of this view. So that's how you'd go back to seeing the rest of the map layers, and it clears the selection. So it just allows you to kind of move through and select a single feature at a time. And we also have another feature that allows you to copy that area if you wanted to use it in reporting. So, in this case, you could select, maybe one of those areas that's overlapping the Long Island Sound. And when you select that feature, you see that button there. It says copy to reporting area. So that allows you to copy that to those model reporting setup that we skipped over in the section above. You see a little notification that it's copied. And so if we can kind of go over to that now and review that. We should have a new feature there. So on this tab, you can see a series of 4 layers and then a button by each. So the one on the right is to allow you to view that. So these are a little bit different in that they just show one at a time. So you can see reporting polygons. We have these two features. One was already there, and then we have the one we just copied on the right there. And I mean, these are showing up black right now. We just haven't configured that display yet. But that allows you to then use these features, which we'll do later in the day, to extract information from a model result and summarize the statistics. So when you have those features, you can see when you have that view for the polygon layer selected, you can see there's a table there, and it has the two features that are in there. It has a name, a feature number, a name, and a classification. These are just helpful. The name comes from one of the name feature in the one we copied from. Classification is just for user use. And then you see the target icon. So that lets us zoom to that feature that we see in the table. So you can kind of move around and zoom into the feature. The other button above is an edit button. It has a little pencil next to the symbol. So if you click on that, it'll change the view. You'll see a couple of buttons there in the table next to the feature that are either edit or delete. So if you kind of got too many of these over time, you could get rid of one, or and then that's just by pressing the delete button. It'll remove from the table in the view. The other button allows you to edit. So if you click edit, you'll be able to change the name. So this might be something that you're happy with the name, but you want to change the classification to something that means something to you as a user. You can just edit those fields there. And then after making an edit, you can update. The other thing you can do in this view is digitize a feature. So if you decide that you don't need the level of detail in the GIS, you're sort of in this edit mode. So if you just click on a map and you're drawing a polygon, then you can just go as detailed as you'd like. I'm making a polygon, and if you double click, it'll auto close the polygon and create a feature. And then you see the name and the classification fields are blank. You need to put something in there that represents the feature name and classification you'd like to use, and then hit the save button. So this allows you to, either copy complex geometry from the one of the GIS layers or digitize a feature. We've gone through this for the polygons, but it's very similar for the other items. You can see the second one if you want to switch to the view mode for the reporting points. So this would be like a similar feature, but just for the points that you've added. Of course, it's easy to add a point just by digitizing. And then the last one there, the reporting transects. The second to last one. This is for cross sections of profile lines. We also call those transects. So we have some of those that are kind of complicated. This is kind of a long list of lines. These can be drawn over combinations of open water, model domain, and land. You kind of generally would just draw it over areas where you want to see model information. So generally they should intersect the model domain at some point. And then the last item is just a helpful extents tab. So because you can zoom to the extent. If you have a focus area, you can set up polygons here around your area, and then just use that to like a bookmark to home in a view to an area you'd like to see. I think it's relevant to indicate how we have this set up now. We share these features across the user group. In general, we have ways of keeping information private unless a user selects to make it public and share it with the full user group. And we'll be implementing that for these features as well. But currently, you'll see the features that other people add on to the application.
Hey, Steve, there was a question regarding importing polygons or entering latitude, longitudes in the chat. The question basically is there a way to import or, oh, you see it? Okay.
Yeah, I do. Thanks. Yeah. There is not currently, you'd have to digitize it or copy it from one of the existing GIS features. So, we can change the GIS features in the back end and upload other information. So, that's sort of like a administrative request at the current point. If there's some GIS information that would be helpful to you or your agency, let us know, and we'll figure out the best way to include those. But yeah, we'll take note of that and let us know as we're using it today. I mean, if there's other features that you think would be helpful, we can put some attention to that and see if we can figure out how to make that included.
And I know I probably missed it when I'm going back and forth between screens. I selected my units that I want and I copied them in and it said successfully copied in. But then I don't see the summary list like I see on your screen on mine, the ones that I think I've copied in.
Yeah, did you copy polygons?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
And
yeah, so if to turn them on, you just need to hit that button on the right that's view polygons. Did you do that?
Oh, okay. Thank you
That's
very
kind
much.
of like that's kind of like how you turn these layers on, and you just see one at a time.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. See, did I miss anything that we want to cover in this section?
I don't think so. That's everything.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can probably move to the second exercise if everybody's ready for that.
Quick question before moving.
Sure.
If you wanted to like select multiple assessment units, is there an option for that?
Like if you wanted to copy like multiple features
Like
at a time?
Yeah, like a section of them? Do we just sort of hide?
It's kind of meant one at a time.
Okay.
We have other reporting features that are meant for more global reporting, but this is set up to work one at a time. But yeah,
Okay.
it's we can take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if there's no other questions, we could move to exercise 2. So that's on page 13. And it'll just step through things, kind of give you a chance to go step by step. So if we want to take, maybe I think maybe 10 minutes or so, just till everybody has a chance to try that. Yeah, feel free to pipe up if you have any issues or problems. And yeah, maybe we'll just check in 5 minutes, see if everybody's done. And if we need more time, we'll keep going for a little bit. I think I see some features populating there. Is everybody doing all right? Any questions or problems?
Again, I think
yes.
it's me, but
Oh, sorry.
so when you go to change the name, how do I get the edit buttons to populate?
It's the other button on the
that
left
one.
with the little
Oh my
pencil
God.
icon. It's
I
very
am so
cryptic.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. I think it's all good feedback for us. Yeah, I didn't mention, but as you hover over buttons, it gives you a little explanation. So it's kind of a quick way to see what, those are for. And those are just, we'll be working on those descriptions and layout over the next few weeks. So does anybody need more time here? Would like more time? I saw there was a question about providing other information. That's if you could just let us know. I mean, obviously a link to a authoritative source, from the agency we're responsible, or we can look at. It's fairly easy for us to add spatial data, so I think we could probably accommodate that pretty easily. Okay, so I think everybody's got a chance there to poke around and try out the GIS data sections. So we'll be using some of this information in other sections today. But yeah, let us know if you have any other questions or think of things later. Just let us know. So I think what we'd like to do then is move on to the next chapter. So this will be monitoring station data. So you access this on the next tab to the right. Dylan, do you want to introduce this?
Sure.
Either way is fine.
Yeah. Okay. So the monitoring and station data tab, when you switch over to it, it'll clear out any of the layers that you had visible on the previous GIS data tab, and it will present a summary at the top, similar to the GIS data tab, with some references to some of the data sources that we use to import time series data to this section of the app. The map layer changes to the station locations, and the legend uses a different color and symbol for each of the organizations where data was imported from. Then you have two primary controls for getting to the data of interest. The first is the organization and ID filter, and then the second is the selection control, which works either on the using checkboxes or by selecting stations on the map. So the filters let you narrow down to the organization or ID of interest. So if you select one organization in the filter, the list on the left and on the map will be filter down to only that organization, and you can select multiple as well. If you know the ID of the station of interest, you can type it or select it in the ID filter box. So that narrows down the number of stations that you see before you make your selections. I'm just going to clear them out and select the first 2 stations. There's also a zoom to button, so that same target icon that's available on the GIS data page can be used here to zoom to the station that you're interested in. The station turns cyan on the map to indicate that it's selected. So if I either click it on the map to unselect it or in the station list on the left, I'll get an indication of which stations are indicated. So once I've made my selections, I can then use the Analyze button, which collapses the station list and lets me choose the date period and the variables that I'm interested in charting. So I'm going to leave the date range on all available data, and I'm going to choose dissolved oxygen. As soon as I make my choice, a query to the database starts running and a number of charts are presented. The chart title has it starts with the station name. So this is station 02, and the second chart is station 01. And these are the point measurements across the date range for dissolved oxygen. They're organized, or they're styled by the depth at which the observation was taken. So surface is blue, bottom is green, middle is orange. If you click on the series name in the legend, it'll toggle. So if the item is on and you click it, it will turn off, and vice versa. If it's off and you click it, it'll turn on. So you can filter out those points that you're not interested in. You can hover over points with this chart. It is interactive. You can drag a box on the chart to zoom into a particular date range or y-axis range. And there's a toolbar at the top with some tools, including download as a PNG, pan and zoom in and out, or reset with the home button, which gets you back to the full data range. And there's 2 different types of charts in this section. So the chart I've just been covering is basic scatter plot. The second type is the variable on a depth y-axis, and if you can obviously view this in 2D mode as it presents by default, or if you check this box below the chart, display in 3D, the chart will rearrange itself to have 3 axes instead of 2, and you'll have a date axis will be introduced, so you can see the date for which this measurement campaign occurred. With the 3D chart, you really need to use the interactive chart controls because a lot of the data hides behind other data points. So I can left mouse click on the chart and drag it left and right, or up and down to rotate and tilt to try and find the area of interest. You can also zoom in with the mouse scroll And then if you hold Control, mouse click and drag, you can pan around. So useful for viewing all the measurements on a single date and investigating how a variable changes with depth. The other control that you have available on this second chart type is the color gradient. You can turn that on and off, but by default it's on, which makes it a lot easier to view. Any questions so far with the station data tab? So in terms of downloading data, there's a download button, which will let you download all the selected stations and variables for this time period as individual CSV files. So if you wanted to build your own charts in Excel or import the data into your own modeling system, you would use this download button. And then, of course, the download plot as PNG button for each individual chart will let you download an image, a static image of this chart for inclusion in a report or sending to someone. So that brings us to,
I think it's maybe worth mentioning, that it depends on which, the format of the data and the availability of the data. It varies by agency. So you'll see slight differences in how the data is presented. And if you have stations that you selected and you analyze and there's no data available, you just get that message.
right.
Cover that. Yeah, I'm not sure what else.
Yeah, not every variable has the detailed depth information to give the 3D chart option either. So you may not see the 3D chart option if the data is not available. Okay, so fairly straightforward. I think that brings us to exercise 3, which starts on page 19 of the training manual. So yeah, if you could work through that over the next 5 to 10 minutes. And yeah, don't hesitate to ask any questions.
So quick question on if I take a PNG, to download plot as a PNG, I'm not sure where to find it.
For me, that ends up in my downloads directory that's managed by my browser.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure if you get a little pop-up from your browser indicating something's being downloaded.
I took a look, like I was able to get the download just for the data went straight over to my downloads folder. But download as PNG, I get a little taken snapshot, little pop-up, take a snapshot and then snapshot taken. And then I'm not able to find it.
For me, it also goes to the downloads folder directly, but you get a little pop-up, so might have an issue if you don't see that working.
Well, it did say it took it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see it in my downloads folder on my, on my own drive. I was able to do download and get the data, get the Excel file. That went straight over.
Yeah, in the same place. It's just a PNG. Just says just called new plot.
Yeah, that's what I'd expect.
Yeah.
And there's no shortcut to it from your browser window, right? I'm sharing on the screen what it looks like for me. I get this little downloads pop up from my browser, which can link me to it.
Exactly. And what's there is still the CSV for the entire data set that I downloaded. I do see that recent download history, but I'm not seeing any of the PNG. So if anybody else on the call has tried that yet and was able to do it, let me know. Because then it would just indicate that I probably need to reach my IT people and find out why it's not coming through, if it's blocked somehow.
Okay.
You tried it more than once, I guess.
Oh yeah, I did. There's hundreds of them going somewhere.
I got it to work, Kelly.
Sorry, you got it, Kate?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Well, I can do it also outside of the VPN network and see.
That might be a difference because I'm not on VPN right now.
That's the difference. Okay. And then another quick question for dissolved oxygen. What we're looking at, which might be in that Excel file, is that average over the year? How would we interpret that, I guess? And I think that it also then carries over into the 3D graphic, but I just was trying to figure out.
Yeah, so these
dissolved oxygen, like, is that the year?
So like these are, I think for all the data sets, they're going to be the individual grab samples. So this is your summer sampling, so it's only in the summer months, and I forget, Kelly, if that's May to October or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then for O2, which is one of your summer stations, Dylan, if you scroll down to the so these are the ones where you actually have vertical profiles of dissolved oxygen. If you, Dylan, if you were to select, I always go to A4, but if you're in this window here, go to
let me show the stations.
like if you Connecticut Deep, and then if you want annual is what we called it. We got up top there on the drop down, Dylan.
Okay.
Year round, that's what we ended up calling them. Now you're going to get your sampling throughout the year, right? When you hit analyze, you should get a DO. Yeah, so now that's your full, right, sampling over throughout the year. But now when you scroll to the bottom, there's no vertical profiles because here you just do surface and bottom and occasionally mid, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay, thanks.
By the way, if you're only downloading the CSV file, not the PNG figure, probably you just click the download button. I think if you want the PNG file, you want to put your mouse on the figure, and there's kind of like a camera thing.
Yep. Mhm.
That will get you the figure, the PNG
Yeah.
figure.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
And I guess, it might be helpful. I mean, the axis kind of shows just annuals for simplicity, but these are a discrete date, and you can see the month and year by, when you hover over it, so that you kind of can see what that individual measurement is. But yeah, discrete point measurements, their profiles or depth categorized. And this is the data provided at the port, a certain point in time. We're working on an update that includes some recent data. So some of these would have more recent data than what's displayed here. And that's just in progress.
Okay, has everyone been able to get comfortable with this section of the app? Does anyone need more time? All right. I'm going to move on to the next tab, the next section of the app called Scenarios. So again, moving over to the next tab will clear out the map layers that you had open on the previous tab. So the scenario manager lets you build or create and then execute new scenarios. There'll be a list of public scenarios that other people or you have previously created in this table. So there's a name, description, and a status field, as well as a delete button. This table is different whether you're an administrator or a regular user. So I probably have more scenarios visible on my screen than you do, and that's okay. So to start off, when it's time for you to create a new scenario, you want to investigate some changes of your own and execute a model, you would hit the Create New Scenario button. And just another thing to mention about roles and permissions, we don't see everyone requiring permission to execute scenarios. So that's a decision that we'll take at a later date. Not everyone requires this functionality, and there is a cost to executing scenarios. So it does require a bit of planning. But anyway, if I did have permission and I wanted to create a new scenario, I would hit the Create Scenario button, which kicks off the multi-step wizard to set up a scenario. Firstly, I would give it a name. So this could be online training. And I'd enter a description. And I could choose to make this public or keep it private, which is the default. If you make it public, it means other users in the system can view the results that come out of your scenario. But if you keep it private, it would only be available for you to view. And you can change that at a later date after it's executed if you wanted to make something public that you originally had private. There's a step forward and back control below each step in this wizard. So I'm going to make this public and advance to the next step, which is choosing the template. And he briefly covered the templates available in the system in his introductory slides. And I don't know if you want to go into more detail now. I can pull up that slide.
No, that's good, right? I think I mentioned the three there, the pre-development, the post-development, and the post-development bio extractions, and those will be available for those 2019 to 2022 years. And then the baseline is basically the model calibration validation period. So it kind of gives you like today's conditions that are available. So that would be sort of the templates, and the user will have the ability to select one of those 4 years for scenario development. And the way the model's set up is the model runs in 1 year increments. So if you did want to run all 4 years, you would have to run each one separately, 2019, 2020. Yeah. And that's, just the way we develop the models, but also just storage size. The files, output files get to be very large. So was sort of the reasoning. But so I think that's what I'll mention right now, Dylan.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Andy.
Yep.
Right. So you make your template scenario selection and then your selection. And then, as Andy mentioned, that's the year from the template that would get used as the starting point for your scenario. So while that sets the starting point, this loading sources step in the wizard is the primary point of differentiation or modification that you can make to a scenario. So this table allows you to adjust the loadings of a selection of variables and a selection of locations that contribute to the model. When you reach this step in the wizard, the locations of all the loading sources will be displayed on map with a categorized legend for rivers, plants, and groundwater locations. And again, we have a set of filters at the top of the table, so you can quickly find your way to a single or multiple features that you're interested in. And you can further narrow down to categories that you're interested in. In this case, I've selected both river locations, so it wouldn't make sense to choose any other categories. But finally, you can narrow down the variables that you're interested in modifying. And the way this works is the multiplication factor column is used to enter the changes in these loadings that you wish to run in your scenario. So you could reduce something to half, or you could increase something. So you would work your way through this table, adjusting the multiplication factors. There is the ability to do a bulk adjustment. I think this is a little bit, we've had a few issues with this, but let me give it a try. Yeah, there are a few issues with this particular bulk adjustment control that will get fixed shortly. But the idea is you would make your selections and you would apply a single factor to all of your selected rows just to quickly make a bulk adjustment. So once you're done editing this table, you can advance to the next step. And you'll get a summary of all of the edits that you made, as well as the locations where you made those edits. That's the same feature, so that's shown on the map there. And finally, you can save your scenario. You then reach a screen where you can execute your scenario, and at this point, you don't have to execute. You could hit the X button and get taken back to the list of scenarios. But I'm going to go ahead and execute in this case. And what happens is, because it takes a long time to do a model run for this training session, a fairly quick fake simulation is executed, and what happens is it basically makes a copy of the baseline 2019 to 2020 run with total nitrogen reduced by 50%. So I'm going to execute. And again, we had a little bit of trouble with this on Thursday in the training. So let's see how well this goes today. But regardless, we do have some scenarios loaded into the system in case that doesn't work. So this is starting a server to perform the execution. If multiple people start executing scenarios, that will go into a queue, and each scenario will be executed one at a time, and you'll get a status update when the scenario is complete. And that's going to take a couple minutes. So what I suggest we do is hand over to you for the exercise in this section of the document, which is on page 27. And let you complete that. I think this will only take 5 minutes, so we can pick up in 5 minutes time and discuss the next step. In the meantime, we can see my scenario has completed. So if I close out of this screen, I can now see my Dylan online training has completed, and I can see it in the larger list. And I'm not going to go into detail with this yet, but we'll be able to view the results from this scenario on the next tab. Results, and if I open this drop down, I can see Dylan online training is now available in the list of results.
Hey, Dylan and all the others on the call, I was just wondering maybe time right now might be a good time to take maybe a little bit longer break, if that's okay. Maybe if you want to, you said 5 minutes to do some tests, but what if we took, I don't know, just 50 minutes too long, a little break, and be back here at 5 to 11?
Sounds great. Okay.
Does that sound good for everybody? I can see thumbs up. Okay. All right. So yeah, so let's say we'll be back here at 10:55. That'll give us like 15 minutes to stretch your legs and do some testing with your scenario manager. All right, all right, folks. 10:55. I'll be the taskmaster today, I guess. But I guess I don't know, Dylan. I know back to you and Steve. Or has anyone had any issues trying the scenario manager, or have comments or problems they encountered?
Yeah, so just another couple of points of detail for this. So when you create a scenario and execute, there were some comments there on how we summarize that information. And we'll be developing a report that summarizes the input loadings for the model scenario. That's not available yet, but that process will be including some of the information that's relevant and understand what goes into a model scenario, specifically the loadings for the water quality components. And then there's a description of what's going on in the user manual. I mean, there's you can go to that on page 25 and get a little bit more information. So that just so you know that there's the kind of a process that'll run at we think of that as at execution time. It goes and prepares all the input files, and we'll have a summary of that, as well as the reporting we're talking about here, where you can see the load factors that you've entered. But yeah, as Andy said, if anybody's got any questions or issues, just pipe up.
If you apply the set up the scenario to apply the factor to everything, and then you went and put in a specific factor for one of the variables, would that compound or override it, or neither?
Dylan, can you handle that one? Not sure if we get that order figured out. We had an additive and a multiplicative factor recently, and we've changed that to just have the multiplication factor.
Yeah, it's from your template that you've selected. It's adjusting. Let me think. Go to my notes. Yeah, compounding. I don't know if that would be the right way to put it. It's a at every loading point that you've selected, for every variable that you've selected, it's going to multiply it by the factor that you've input. So if you only did 1 or 2 points, it's probably going to make quite a a minor impact, I would say. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
I think we're wondering is if you use a general global factor and then go to a specific station and also put an input, would I mean, it's just really how we have this configured, right? Would that compound the factors at a given station that you entered a local factor at?
Okay, when you apply a factor to all selected, the final factor is what it depends on the order in which you do it. So if you do an individual first and then override it with a general factor, the general factor is going to get used. But if you did it the other way around, if you did a general factor first and then went and manually edited one or two rows, those manually edited values will be the ones applied. So it's whatever the final factor in that row ends up being.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then can I ask this is probably a dumb K question. When I did a test to see if I could do the apply all, and it came up that the feature and the thing was blank, but the factor was 0.5. Does that mean I did it incorrectly, or that's the signal that I applied it globally?
I think you did it correctly. There is a bug with that apply all control, so we will be fixing that shortly. So yeah, I think I experienced something similar when I was demonstrating a few minutes ago. There was a blank row. So yeah, assume that your workflow is correct, and we'll fix that bug in the user interface.
Thank you. Oh, one more question. Sorry.
Sure.
I'm trying to take a breath and let other people talk. So when you make it public, do you now give the rights to the world of people who have access to making scenarios to delete your scenario, or is the delete only for the originator of the scenario?
The delete should only be for the originator or owner. But when you make it public, you're basically allowing others to view the results. That's the primary difference when making something public.
Would I be able to use a scenario to make another scenario and use that as my template?
I think we wanted to start with a very well-known starting point, and that was the idea with the kind of hard list of templates. So yeah, I'm not sure if we're planning on implementing that capability.
No, that's all right. It's not a suggestion, just a question on what it does. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So again, on my screen, because I'm an administrator, the list of scenarios that I can see is probably a lot longer than what you can see on your screen. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's executed one. Some have created and not executed, and that's fine as well. Don't worry about deleting things. I will do a cleanup after training.
Hey, Dylan, I think just so it's clear in my head, I was thinking, so if I do make a run or scenario public, I know others can view the output, but only I can delete it, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the intention. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Or
And
an
I think
administrator, just to be,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
I wasn't suggesting the other way. I like it that way. I just wanted to
Yes.
be sure.
Yep. No, it's good to be clear. And we are working through some of these, just making sure, the right things are shared and private as it were. Okay, I think, does everybody feel like they've had enough time with scenarios? Any other questions? Those we can move on to the next topic. So yeah, what we're gonna do next is go on to results. So this will be chapter 5 on page 28 in your manual. So here we're getting into the the post model run review of output. So there's a few steps we're not going through today, where we're actually waiting for a model run to complete and managing that. That's that'll take some time. That there'll be some notification procedures so when that's complete. When you get that notification, you'll be able to come to this tab and then view the model results. So here you can see at the first tab you have a selection box that says choose scenario. So we can choose a scenario to activate our ability to view it. So you could choose a baseline or one of the scenarios that's run. So Dylan chose the online training scenario that he ran. And then you see there's 3 tabs here: the results, a model inputs, and a summary results. So right now we're focused on the results tab. The model inputs that isn't populated yet, but that'll include the scenario load report, so you can see what was run, what actual loads went in, and view those on the map in some summary form. And then we've got some summary tools for general results on the summary results. We can go into that a little bit later. But right now, focusing on the results tab, you can see then that you have a list of map layers below. So there's a color palette chooser at the top level, and then you have a list of the primary outputs. You can choose the scenario, or sorry, the palette that you choose to see. And then you have a series of eyeball icons. They're all off by default. You can turn on one at a time. So if we select one, then we'll see that that model result populate on the map. It shows up in the legend. It has a number of controls in the legend. The top one is if you hover your mouse over a location on the map, you see the value. That's in terms of the units for dissolved oxygen you see there in the legend. And then there's a palette with a slider there. So, that's useful for adjusting the palette to kind of highlight certain regions. You are normalized to the full range of values for the full model domain. So it tends to mute out differences in specific areas. So right now we're showing the full range. You can see Dylan here has adjusted the top level. That will also reset the numbers on the scale. So you're basically distributing a smaller range of values over the full color range. So you'll see differences more acutely when you adjust that range to a smaller amount, and you can see the variability within there. And then there's a reset button. You can type in a minimum or a max value. You can also select reset to go back to the full range. The next slider in the legend you see there is the depth. So this starts at the surface layer, which is a depth of 0. And then if you slide that handle to the left, it'll go down in the water column. These are depths in meters, so the application is extracting these from model layers at specific depths. So as you go deeper, you can see the shallow areas are nulled out. They don't have data in those locations. So this is a way of kind of looking quickly at the values at throughout the water column across the model domain. So then the last control you see in the legend is the date and time. So this is an animatable legend. You can drag and find a specific time within the simulation, or you can animate with the play arrow, and you can see the changes over time. So this is the map display of model results. This is recorded or extracted, saved from the model simulation at a 12-hour time step. So we have 2 time steps per day. Of course, simulation, again, this is just a volume of data. You remember they're recorded at all the model layers. So it's a lot of data for the full year. So we have other tools for looking at things in slightly more temporal detail at specific locations, but for the overall model results, these are 12-hour time steps. So you can see there's a number of water quality focused model results available, along with salinity and temperature. These are the primary outputs for the water quality analysis of Long Island Sound. So the second section you'll see below the map layers is charts and cross sections. And so that is a similar control to what we saw in the stations tab for looking at monitoring data. In this case, we're extracting or looking at model results in chart form. So here, we can again pick any of the reporting variables. So here's dissolved oxygen. You can select multiple in this selection box. We'll start with 1. And then you can pick a result depth that you'd like to see results at, starting at the top and working down in the water column. In the third box there, you select the feature type. So here we can pick a point, a transect, or a station location. And so the transects are the cross sections or profile lines that we defined earlier. If you select that option, you'll see the list of defined transect locations, and then that would be selected in the box, so that whatever name was put in there, that's what populates this box. So you can pick the battery through sound and see a transect through Long Island Sound starting at Battery Park. And so this would be the selected variable dissolved oxygen along that transect. It's a profile at depth. Now this is indexed to time. So you can see that the date and time slider is, at that March 10th, 12 a.m. So, that slider controls both the map and this profile. So you can, look at the evolution over time using that slider. And you can see the selected date and time populates at the top of the chart. So you can kind of see what you're looking at there. I guess importantly, this uses a different legend because the range is quite a bit different for a given profile than would be available in the full 3D model result shown on the map. You have a different range, so it's got its own color profile. So if you select one of the other result types instead of transects, you can delete that current transect for clarity, and then station locations. So now these are special stations where results are saved from the model domain at an hourly frequency. So these are defined locations that coincide with monitoring points typically. So you'll see that in the name. And this gives you the model result at that location, but instead of the 12-hour map-based time step, this is a station file that includes hourly data. So this is how you'd look at detailed dynamics at a given station from a model scenario. And these charts work like the charts we looked at earlier in the stations tab. We able to look in detail, zoom in, review the data values with the hover tool, and use the chart controls to reset and download specific the PNGs, the image files for use offline. And you can put multiple charts in here. All of these controls you are able to get depths and chart locations. Multiple. All in one. It's pretty responsive, so it draws these pretty fast, and you can use as many as relevant for your analysis. One thing we'll add in this charting is the reporting depth. You can see that we've selected -5, so we'll be adding that to the chart title. So that's something that's tracked along with the chart. I guess the other one, yeah, sure, go ahead. I guess the other one is we just pick points. That will be our map reporting points. So this gives you the flexibility to get model results in time series form anywhere in the model domain, with the limitation that this comes from the 12-hour time step data.
Looks like the points are not loading, Steve. We'll fix that.
Got it. Okay. I think that's the bulk of it for the results tab itself. Is there anything we want to add to this?
I think that's it.
Okay. Yep. So, I mean, maybe just the scenarios, or sorry, the statistics component. So, in this view, in this results tab, we're looking at things in as much detail as we can, by depth and by model location or station. We have a way to summarize information from this really granular view. And so this is allowing us to take a certain model result. Like let's say we want to look at dissolved oxygen. Sorry if you pick something else. In a specific layer. So we basically select layer 1 in this case. Looking layer at a time. This is instead of model depth, but model layer. So we'll have some labels that make it easy to see top and bottom. But this would allow us to summarize layer one for a user-defined polygon like Dylan's showing here. And then we can add statistics and save them into this table. This runs a real-time analysis, so it's not pre-computed. It takes a little bit of time. But then we'll have means, mins, maxes, and percentile statistics for each of those layers, and those are saved as a table that can be built up. If someone wants to look in detail on at what the statistical distribution of model results are for certain areas or domains within the model domain.
Hey, Steve, just a note for everybody. You were just pointing to the different, the top there says select layer, your top drop-down menu. So if other models that you may have used, layer 1 is the surface and layer 10 is the bottom. In the ROMS model, it's the opposite. So layer 10 is the surface and layer 1 is the bottom. And we're going to add a little note so that when you see 1, it says bottom. So just to warn you, it's the reverse of many other models.
So this feature does currently populate, but it just basically generates a long list of model statistics and summaries by layers. So just not currently working, but that's something else we're working on. So any questions or comments on this? I think one of the other things we talked about in the earlier session was including both the depth and the layer options. So that would be, another way to just provide a little more intuition to finding specific information. But like I said, this is the way we look at it in a really granular level, where we're able to, zoom in and see, the model scale resolution, and the full 3D depth, just by looking a layer at a time, or extracting profiles or time series. Okay, if there aren't any questions, I think if you haven't already, you could try this out. The chapter 5 exercise, it starts on 28. I think the exercise itself there's quite a bit of information in the user manual on the variables and how the variables are defined for total nitrogen, total phosphorus, and dissolved inorganic nitrogen. And as well on the tools and features we've kind of discussed here, and then the exercise begins on page 33.
I do have a question though, regarding the figures, because I'm looking at the figures that I downloaded. It seems like the resolution is quite limited. Is there like a way to define the definition, like change it, or that's kind of a default that you cannot change?
Are you talking about like a chart figure?
Yes.
No, I think that's meant to be fairly high resolution, so it might be something we need to look at.
Okay. Maybe it's just too small when I open it, but when I zoom in, I think, well, depending on the occasion, someone may want a higher resolution, I guess. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the idea is we want to provide the highest resolution, we were generating, so that detail's there. So we'll take a look at it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, it uses the size that the chart's rendered it on in your web browser. So if we made, this a larger panel, whether that popped out or expanded across, and then you download it, that would allow it to be higher resolution.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll just provide a few more minutes for people to complete this exercise. Just let us know if you have any issues. Okay, so any comments or questions on that? Does everybody have enough time to work through the exercise? So the next section is reporting. So do we want to jump into that? Sounds good to someone. Dylan, you want to take this on?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So the results tab that we've just learned how to use provides access to a high level of detail. So time step by time step, or depth slice by depth slice. And you can choose any number of output variables to display. But the reporting section of the app focuses more on more generalized reports about specific areas of concern. So you have fewer controls to work with, and some more tailored charts and map layers that will be presented. So the way to navigate through the reporting tab is through this top left drop down, report type. So we'll start with the hypoxia report, and we also have a water quality standards and a compare report available, and we'll cover those next. So for the hypoxia report, the first decision you make is which scenario you want to investigate. These are all basically the same except for the baseline. So we'll start with the learn online training. The analysis is divided into two sections for this hypoxia report. You can either use values calculated from the mean of the bottom layer or the minimum of the bottom 5 layers. The reporting area is the polygon over which the calculation is performed. So this Long Island Sound analysis area covers just the sound by default, but other polygons can be chosen, including the full model domain or some of the custom polygons that you created in the reporting areas control in the GIS data tab. Then the period, the analysis period, it defaults to the full model result period. So this is the years of 2019 and 2020. You can change that to monthly mode, where each month will get a map tile, and you can animate through that, or a custom period if you want to focus in just on summer, for example. So we'll start off with the full period and hit the calculate button. And this report takes a little longer to pull up results because this is a dynamic calculation based on actual model output. So the map result has returned, but we're still waiting for the 2 time series charts. So it should be done in a few seconds. There they are. So looking at the time series charts, the first is hypoxic area in kilometers squared, and the second is hypoxic volume in kilometers cubed. And we have 3 series on each chart. For the analysis, because we've chosen mean of bottom layer, the series represent the mean daily dissolved oxygen below 3 important thresholds. So this green line is values below 4.8, and then blue is below 3, and red is below 2. And again, you can turn these series, you can toggle these series visibility by clicking on them. So if we click on the green line in the legend, the chart will redraw just to the, it will rescale itself just to the blue and the red lines. So we can see that our dissolved oxygen area increases over late summer as expected for the 2 years in this model result. Now the map is showing the mean bottom layer dissolved oxygen over this entire result period, so this 2-year period. So perhaps a better way of looking at it is to change the display period to monthly, and then run the query by clicking the update map button, and this will go and fetch the mean bottom layer dissolved oxygen on a month-by-month basis for the entire result period. So now we are presented with a new slider control, and if we advance that to late summer, we can start to see some areas of lower dissolved oxygen getting revealed in the map. It's a categorized legend, and the categories are shown in the map legend in the top right. So we can start to see some yellow zones appearing. And then if we change from the mean of the bottom layer to the minimum of the bottom 5 layers, we can rerun the analysis with the calculate button. The charts have changed from means to minimums in the series. And now in the map layer, if I go to late summer, we can see we're getting some lower dissolved oxygen values with these orange areas showing up. Because the analysis area is only set to this Long Island Sound selection, the oceans and rivers are indicated by empty grid cells, so nothing's calculated there. But if we wanted to see those values, we could change the analysis area to full model domain or another polygon.
Yeah, hey Dylan, I'm just going to add a little bit on this hypoxia reporting, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We've had various discussions over the years about the GUI and the reporting, and one of them was this hypoxic area calculation, and partly to provide something similar to that's available on the Long Island Sound Partnership website. They do it based on data and spatial interpolation. And the thinking was, well, we could do the same calculations, hypoxic area and the hypoxic volume using the model output. So that's how this sort of concept was, came to be here. And that Long Island Sound analysis area was also sort of the same region that's used for the list, the Long Island Sound Partnership reporting, and it was kind of based on a paper by Jim O'Donnell, who went through some calculations to do that. So it is kind of centered on focus on Long Island Sound, but like Dylan mentioned, you could create your own polygon and go through the same calculation, and it would be specific to that area, not all of Long Island Sound. Yes, I was just reading Kathleen's note about using assessment units. So Dylan, if in the GIS page, we had those different coastal assessment units, if you remember. So one could go in and trace one of those assessment units and use that here to do a calculation, right?
Yes, that
So
is
create, okay.
that is the intention. There have been a few minor issues with these custom custom areas, but we'll get that sorted out. But yeah, that is the intention, for you to be able to either trace your own area or to copy one of the existing polygons, like an assessment unit, and then it would show up in this list.
Drop down, yeah.
Okay. And for a follow-up, we talked about that before, and just if I can track, if I'm tracking the right info, we copy in one of those, not a multiple set, or did I misunderstand that? We can do a set of them, so I could look at each of Connecticut's assessment units across, or
yeah, to copy it works one at a time, one polygon at a time. But if you wanted to have a larger area, then I would say yeah, digitizing would be the best way to do that. We can look at how much effort it would be to allow selecting multiple, and then kind of joining those together so that you could use them here. We can see, we can look into that.
Yeah, maybe one thing to note too is this, again, kind of came up a little bit at the in-person training last week. The model results that Dylan and Steve have brought into the GUI are, preliminary, not final yet. So, what you're seeing, they've just been using to work out the coding and the process to view this stuff. So, as you're looking at some of the results on the GUI now, these are not final, just to let you know that they don't take any, And then one other thing that kind of came up on a side conversation since then, and we'll have to figure out how to put like a little note somewhere here, is that, these areas that we're calculating are based on the model output and the level of model calibration. So if the model is biased a little bit high, these areas might be biased a little bit low. So I think we just need to figure out how to put a note somewhere here, and maybe a more detailed modeling user would understand that, but maybe another user may just come in that's trying to get a report, may not understand that. So we want to put some sort of note about that in here. Right, what's the saying? All models are good, some of them, or no, all models are wrong, some of them are good. It's just a note that, the model's calibrated as best it can to the data that's available. So, but I think that's all I wanted to mention, Dylan. So,
okay, thanks. Yeah.
Sorry, can I, since we're on that, I just sort of had a question, and Andy, you might even have a graphic on this, because I think it would help me visually. But when we're looking at the bottom 5 layers all across Long Island Sound, what I'm trying to get at, the question is, all across Long Island Sound, there's the same amount of vertical layers, right?
Yep,
Some
yes.
might be thinner than others because of the changes of the depth.
Correct.
Okay, that's just, I wanted to
Yeah, and again, we tried
understand
to follow the way, I keep going back to and I think we'll have a link to the O'Donnell paper that I think he was trying to follow the deep methodology. So, where you have vertical profiles, I think you were looking at finding the minimum DO in the bottom half of the water column. So we said that's why that option that's up there now is we'll pick the minimum of the bottom
the
5
5,
layers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, right.
And then the other one was the mean, Dylan, of the bottom layer, I think, right?
Yeah.
So again, we write out output everywhere in all cells every 12 hours. So, you're kind of averaging up different, you could have like higher and lower values that average out a little bit higher than when we pick the minimum, the bottom 5 layers. So yes, and as you get to the shoreline, if the water body's 10 meters deep, you're looking at the bottom 5 meters. If you're out in the middle of the sound, maybe where it's 50 meters, you're looking at the bottom 25 meters. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. What's the Gregory George box? I like that. Thank you, Anthony.
All right. I think I'll move on to the next report type. You will have an exercise at the end of this, which covers all 3 report types. So I'll just move ahead with the demonstration for now. So as I mentioned, the report types are controlled by this top left drop down. So I'm going to move from hypoxia to water quality standards. The report will arrange a few new controls. You'll have the same scenario drop-down chooser in the top right. The map analysis changes now from hypoxia focused to dissolved oxygen daily averages and chronic compliance percentages, which are metrics that we'll discuss further when I pull up some charts.
Yeah, and hey, Dylan, maybe I'll give a little intro to this too, because it's
sure
not straightforward for some. So what we were trying to do here was to also provide another reporting feature that's sort of standard that looks at the marine DO criteria that Connecticut and New York have, which is, at least for the chronic part, it's a variable exposure criteria. So if you're in between 3 milligrams per liter and 4.8 milligrams per liter, there's sort of an allowable excursion time. And if you exceed a certain amount of time, then it violates the chronic criteria. And if you're below 3, you're flat out violate the chronic criteria. And then on an hourly basis, if you go below 3, you violate the acute criteria. So we wanted to build in that marine DO criteria into this reporting feature, again, as a sort of a standard reporting that's available. So I'll add more as you go through, Dylan.
Okay, so thanks, Andy. I guess another difference to the hypoxia report is now we perform analyses at individual stations. So these stations are model locations, so they correspond with the grid cell location in the model. And they also, most of them overlap with, most of them can be found in the list of observation stations, but I would say not all of them. So to that end, we have a station group selection box and a station selection box. And this is similar to the stations tab with the observed monitoring data, in that you can make station selections either from a drop-down list or by clicking on them in the map. So if I go ahead and choose those 2 stations on the map, they'll become cyan and they'll appear in this list of stations. Again, we can run the analysis for the full model result period, or we can switch to monthly. So I'll start with the full period and hit the calculate button.
You know, maybe just one more thing to add, like for this detailed sort of criteria calculation, we limited it to these stations, these points. And that's because the model output we save hourly at these individual points throughout Long Island Sound, the harbor, and the Hudson. And we needed that hourly output to, go through the official criteria calculation. Like I said a little bit earlier, Dylan mentioned earlier too, we have output every 12 hours everywhere, all layers, but that wasn't sufficient for that. So that's why we decided to focus on these station locations where we do have hourly output. So that's sort of the reason of the drop downs for the stations to go through the detailed criteria calculation.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So now that the query is completed, I have 2 chart groups that represent the 2 selected stations. So in each chart group, we have the station title and then 2 sort of static or non-charted outputs. The first is days contributing to violation. So for this station, it's 139. And the second is hours where DO is less than 3, and in this case 0. Then we have the 3 charts. So the first is the bottom layer DO average. So as expected, getting lower towards the end of summer. The second chart is the daily fraction, and this is the value from 0 to 1 that Andy was explaining.
Yeah, so for each daily average, it calculates a fraction of sort of the exposure time between 3 and 4.8, sort of like a sliding scale in there. And you're calculating them daily. So that's what that fraction is you're seeing. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, Dylan, that goes through a 66-day cumulative sum of those fractions. And then if you're above 1.0, above 1, that's considered a non-compliance with the chronic criteria. So it's a little complicated criteria calculation, but we figure we want to include it because that's what's applied in the Sound and other marine water bodies, New Jersey and New York.
Right, and then the second station is a repeat, obviously with values unique to that station. In this case, it's a better situation.
Yeah, further east.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then this one would have no exceedances of the chronic criteria because you're not above 1, right? And that's what it says in your tabulation up top, right, Dylan?
Yeah.
Number of days, it says 0, I hope.
Yes. Yeah, 0
Yeah.
days contributing, 0 hours below 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to include sort of the hourly deal less than 3. That's the acute criteria. Because the chronic goes through and looks at the daily average to develop the fractions. So anyways.
Yeah, and similar to the hypoxia report, you can choose a monthly map display period and rerun the query. The charts don't need to reload, but now if we start to move the map through the months, we can see the picture changing as we expect.
Yeah, and the map on the right, Dylan, let's see, that's the bottom layer daily average that you're presenting with those bands at 0 to 2, 2 to 4, right? What did you call those?
Categories.
Categories, yes.
Yeah.
And then we also have the to make the map a little more user friendly. We have the option to turn those categories on or off, so you can kind of just hone in on the ones you want to see. So you click them, it just makes them transparent. So it's just kind of like a little, feature to home in on maybe, certain conditions you're looking at.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. And that's kind of like when you were showing the data earlier, you can select surface, middle, bottom, and turn them off and on the same way. Okay.
Yep.
That's neat.
Okay, any questions or comments there before I move on to the final report type, the compare report?
Just a quick question. So the details on how the daily average is computed, Andy, you explained it. Is that something that there'll be like a little toggle over for information on that?
So we were
Or is
thinking
it
of,
there already?
yeah, I don't know if it's there yet, but we were going to link in, well, a couple things was to link into the different state water quality standards related to DO. And then I kind of like the New York State TOGS, that has a nice description of the marine DO criteria and how it's applied. So we would figure we'd have those in the info button, Dylan, or somewhere so that people can go to them and read up on a little bit more of the details behind it all. I think that's
Yeah,
there.
I think, the idea is that we also have a little summary in the, you don't have to, go do a bunch more reading to find out what's going on. I think right now what we have in the user manual is helpful. So that's on like page 40. It starts, it's, a bit on the behind the calculation for the chronic DO criteria. So you can, start there. It's just a paragraph or so. And, we might just take, something like that and put it into the how-to info here, along with those links that Andy described.
Yeah, just those couple sentences even from that behind the calculation.
Yep.
Yeah,
Our idea was, to basically embed a lot of the how-to in the UI. That's what those info kind of tools are for. So yeah, we'll at least have that, that level of summary. So it's, a quick reminder of what's going on. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, Kate, I see you got a hand up.
I can see that just like last time, we can download the PNG, but when I go to the tables, it looks like there's not an option to download CSV like there was the last time. Is it an intent to do that here? Or did I miss a button again? Probably.
No, I just think we haven't implemented it yet, but that we should have the those tables then. They're a bit bigger, so it might be helpful to have those externally. But we just haven't pulled that together yet. But we'll have a download capability here.
Oh, thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the final report type, which is the compare report.
Hey, Dylan and Steve, maybe I just noticed we just clicked past noon. How much more time do you think you need to get through everything?
I mean, we're pretty close to done. This is the last report, which is the last section. So I think really it comes down to, just the feedback, kind of wrap up.
Yep.
It all depends on just how much people have, or want to contribute to that. So, I don't think we have a lot more, we could probably wrap up here in just a few minutes, just depending on how much feedback we have.
So I know we can't ask everybody. Maybe just go through this. Let's compare and the different stuff, right? That's coming up for the output reporting, and then Unless people are starving and need to go get lunch, let us know.
Yeah, we could take a break. I mean, we were gonna, give people a chance to run through the exercises. We
Yeah.
could kind of let them do that over a lunch break if you want, and then we could jump back on for feedback. So, maybe that would be a good way to
So
do
maybe
it.
kind of go through this like walkthrough that you're going to do now over the next, say, 15 minutes or something, and then we take a break and people can kind of play around. We come back at a certain time. Does that sound
I
good?
think that would make sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. Good to keep going, Michelle. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Okay, I'll work through the compare report. So the idea here is comparing a variable between two different scenarios or a scenario and a baseline. So once you select the compare report, we show a few more controls to enable this. So the first choice to make is the variable. I suggest for this training you choose total nitrogen. And the reason for that is, I think I mentioned already, the the sort of quick placeholder scenarios that we executed in the training. The only difference between that and the baseline is the total nitrogen is reduced by 50%. So if you choose something else, you're not going to see any difference. So I'll go ahead and choose total nitrogen. For the time period type, if you leave this selected as full, you'll be able to compare every single time step to each other, so there's no statistic applied. But if you change this to monthly, you can then do you're then required to choose mean, min, or max, which will be applied across each month. So we'll just start off with the full period. Then the model layer, as Andy mentioned, the lowest number is the bottom layer. So if we want to compare the bottom two layers, and we'd then be required to choose a statistic for how those are combined, and we'll just go with mean. Then the compare report can either be used in side-by-side mode or difference mode. So we'll start with side-by-side mode. And we then need to choose which two scenarios or templates we're comparing against each other. So I'll do one of my scenarios versus the baseline. And finally, model location, result location. I do expect to see a list of stations here, so I'm just going to do a quick refresh, which sometimes sorts these type of issues out. Okay, this is another bug that's recently popped up. There should be a list of station locations to choose from in this list, which would then extract results in a time series chart. I think that's what we show. I'm just looking across at the user manual. Yeah. Just going to pop across to the GIS data tab and have a look at these points, see if I can see oh, there are no points.
I would explain it.
Yeah. Okay, so the issue was there were no points there. The others had been deleted, so I've just created a new point called Dillon Long Island Sound. And now it shows up in this list. So this would be the location where the report would run. So go back to total nitrogen. Now that I've made all my selections, the compare button is enabled, and I can execute it, and it will take a little time to fetch the map layers and the chart. Okay, so I'll start with the map. So the layout's a little bit different for this report. You've got a central slider control that you can move left and right. And then at the bottom of the left and the right, you've got a time step control. So that's what you'd use to choose the time step that you're interested in. So if I advance this to February 26th, I can then use the synchronize sliders button that's in between the two date controls, and then they'll match each other. And then because this minimum and maximum is for the entire period, often needs narrowing down. So what I typically do is quickly hover the mouse over and look at the types of the range of values that I'm working with, and I see, okay, I need to go from kind of 0 to maybe 5. Let's have a look. And as I lower that down, it just narrows the range that the legend is applied to, and brings out the colors a little bit better. So now if I zoom in a bit, you can see there's a color difference between the left and the right hand side. The value should be exactly half, because that's how this scenario was configured. And now if I move the slider left and right, I'm able to compare how things changed between the two scenarios. So on the left-hand side, it's more yellow colors, lower values. And on the right-hand side, I see more greens and darker colors. So that's high values of total nitrogen. So then moving to the charts, so at this result location, if I zoom out the map a little bit, you can see where the result location is located. Values have been extracted, so it's basically showing a chart of both model results at that location, so we can see one is double the other, which is to be expected. So the next thing I'm going to do is change the analysis from side by side to differences mode. And I'm going to rerun the comparison. And this time, because this is a difference mode, there's only one map layer, so there's no slider. And this is showing the results of subtracting B from A. And this is giving, so on the chart, the dotted line is the difference result on the secondary y-axis. And they're all negative, so I'm going to swap these around using the swap button and rerun the comparison, just to give some positive difference results. And then since on the chart I can see the difference values range from close to 0 up to 0.14, I'm going to configure the map legend to highlight the differences, so we can actually see some changing colors. So now the charts still have the A value and the B value from the two scenarios, but they've introduced a third series, which is the difference, the purple dots. And I can step through time and see how this changes. Okay, any questions on the compare report?
Is there also an option to get the table, I guess, the differences in an Excel file?
That would be pretty easy to add. So yeah, we can get that
Okay.
added to this. Yeah.
All right, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, so I think the idea was to hand over to you to complete exercise 6, which starts on page 43, 44. Andy, what were you suggesting? Was that combined with the lunch break? Do you want to set the times?
If we return at 1, does that work for everybody? It's at 45 minutes. Or do we need more time? I'm not sure what everybody's thinking.
We could definitely allow you to work on that over lunch if you're able to do that. And then kind of when we come back, kind of wrap up the example, walk through with any questions and
Any
help people
questions
out.
on the examples and then any initial feedback, right, Steve?
Yep. And then we could do feedback. Yeah.
All right, let's shoot for that then. Everyone will get back around 1 o'clock and then pick back up at that point.
So quick question. Is there supposed to be some examples on the reporting for the reporting section?
Yeah, if you go to exercise 6 is on page 44 of the user manual. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, mine are all blank.
Uh-oh. Hold on a second.
In the manual, or you mean
In the manual,
hmm.
it looks like it ends at 42, and it's sort of just that difference that we went over. But then I have a bunch of blank pages.
Yeah,
So
I think maybe
I think something went wrong with transmitting that PDF, so I can resend it to you.
Yeah, maybe send it out to the whole group, Dylan.
Does anyone else have this issue?
I have it, and what I can do is put it on our network in case it's a network to network issue too.
Okay, thanks, Kate.
So Dylan, what page was that?
43.
43. Oh, exercise
Starts right
6 at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the one that you sent last week versus the one that came this morning, but it looks. Okay, yeah, maybe there's just some, they're the same, maybe somehow got corrupted or something in transit, but, okay. All right, all, we'll go on hold and then be back at 1. Thanks all.
Thank you, guys.
Talk soon.
Hey, everyone, just 1 o'clock and maybe we'll give a few more minutes for people to wander back in. I know Dylan and Steve, was anything that you needed to still go over?
I don't think so, Andy. Yeah.
Okay. I guess, has everybody had a chance to do that final exercise that was in the manual and had any questions, or and not just on that last exercise, really on anything related to the model? I mean, the GUI, the model GUI, not the model. Maybe we're all in food comments, but maybe while you guys are all thinking, but I don't know. We were hoping that it's all somewhat intuitive as you poke around. I know it takes time to familiarize yourself with it all, but hopefully it's in that kind of menu drop down driven environment like we're used to. So yeah, I'll just leave it. I don't know.
So Andy, I think I don't have a question about the GUI, but because of going through some of the exercises, like let's see, the first one we did here with the hypoxia reporting,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably just because this is draft, but there's like a hypoxic area measured in April. Right, so that's just, I guess, because we're in draft and we wouldn't see that in the final.
In the yes, exactly. Yes, the results that were provided were just again with some draft early results just to get the software. The programmers still in Deep and hit their crew to start working it in, but we're in the process of getting all those output files finalized. The plan is to have I guess we've been kind of calling it like the baseline model output or the calibration and validation years. So that's from 2003 to 2022 available on the GUI within the GUI. And then for those three management scenarios, they would be kind of more from the post TMDL load reduction. So 2019 through 2023, that would be all available on the site. And that's, I'll talk about that in a second. And then for those daring individuals, the code, the ROMs and the RCA code will be up on a GitHub location, site for people to download and use. And then the input files and like the creation scripts, which is sort of a combination of probably R and maybe some MATLAB or Python. And there's different tools we use to generate inputs will be uploaded. We're thinking right now to like Zenodo. It's sort of like an online archive. And again, just because the file sizes are very large, so that people would have access to a lot of the inputs, outputs, codes, even external from the GUI if you really wanted to dig in.
Okay.
What else was I going to say? Oh, the hosting, I think is still getting finalized, but the plan is, and Steve, you can chime in, but the plan is for DHI to host the GUI for a year, while I guess the next, the future gets kind of worked out, but that the hosting is, will be, will be storage. I guess Steve, right? You guys, there's like administration as new software comes out, you got to update security features and whatnot and manage users. And yeah, I don't know what else is involved in that's probably the big stuff, right, Steve, for the hosting. And it'll be up on a Microsoft Azure cloud. So there'll be costs for compute, meaning running scenarios. Obviously there's storage, upload, download costs. So that's just a whole nother sort of behind the scenes thing that we're working through.
Yep, that sounds right.
Yeah. this recording, it seems I saw Namita, you just started it back up, which is good, thanks. And this recording and the recording from the in-person last week will be available. The PowerPoints will be available. And then, at the end of the project, there's gonna be a ton of reports about the actual development of the models. Like inputs and loading conditions and model calibration, tons and tons of model data figures, more than you need to see probably, but also the justification, the various steps through the project. I don't know what else to add. Steve, do anything? Guess wanted to chime in there on the.
Yeah, I mean, I guess feel free to jump in, and sometimes feedbacks takes a little thinking when you think about what would make work better. I mean, I think we've got this exercise here. If you want us to step through anything in detail, we can do that. We could go over any of the other areas of the UI that we've discussed. But yeah, if you think of other things that would be helpful beyond what's already been mentioned, you can let us know today or via email whenever you think of it. Happy to have that input and suggestions and guidance.
At the beginning, is there like, I guess, on-call service for a little bit while we're working through this? Or is that that first year that you mentioned, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in our current deliverables include finalizing development and managing the model preparation and uploading. Following that period, then we'll have some kind of a support function. And that's what we're working out, just how much time we'd have available to do the kind of the background things and the Q&A that would be somewhat inevitable. So yeah, we hope to make it as intuitive as possible and provide a lot of online documentation. But I do expect that there'd be some time available to help users.
Okay. So when should we I mean, obviously we could play around with the exercises and continue running the GUI a little bit and learn more about it, but when would we be able to go in and both the final data will be in there? Or would we get notice when that's going to happen?
Yeah, I think getting notice when everything's up there, like the final output files to view and everything, and the GUI's fixes are all done. There'll be some sort of email, I guess, communication, but I would anticipate that not till near the end of August, just because we're just getting everything wrapped up now, getting inputs even on the modeling, not just the final GUI development. So it's in that time frame. Yeah.
Okay.
So enjoy your summer.
Thanks.
Yeah. Not hearing too much else. Like Steve said, if you have any comments or thoughts or suggestions after, and maybe you play around a little bit with the tool, you could what do we do with the in-person, Namita? Do we say send them to me to organize? Was that the plan?
Correct. We said everyone
Yeah,
except
okay.
DEP sends them to you, and then DEP sends them to Greg.
Yes. Okay.
Today we have some folks from DEP, and then that's New York City DEP, maybe just Mariam, and then all the others. So EPA, DEC, New Jersey DEP, Connecticut DEP. I guess you could send it over to Andy
Yep.
and DEC. Yep.
And then we've been taking notes about the various input that we received yet last week and today too. That'll we'll kind of compile and kind of work in. So all right. Unless there's any last minute thoughts, we kind of gave you your afternoon back, I guess.
I had one more question real quick.
Yep.
For PDHs, if you need PDHs from this event, can you either raise your hand or drop it in the chat box right now?
Yeah, and then you have to go through some steps on our end, right, Namita?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Or if not today, and just email, myself and Namita, and we can get the certificate sent out if you need it. Right. Is that it, Namita? Just the PDHs?
Yes, that's all from me. Okay, I note that, Miriam. I see your note.
Yes, got it. Okay. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining today. Hopefully we covered everything in, enough detail. And again, like if you've got any questions or comments, ideas, kind of send them over. Yeah. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.